right. Today is the second Sunday of the Trump presidency and the 10th day of his presidency. And on Friday, he announced sweeping new immigration restrictions. And all the liberal sites that I look at, HuffPo and Salon and Slate, are appalled at the restrictions. The airports across the nation are full of tens of thousands of protesters and people with green cards and people who've been immigrants who've studying for their PhD or researching their PhD around the world have been coming home or back to America because they're afraid they won't be able to get into America anymore if they were originally from Pakistan. And it just, and let's see, Trump said it's not a Muslim ban, but on Friday on Fox News, or yesterday on Fox News, Rudy Giuliani said that Trump asked him, how do we do a Muslim ban? So it doesn't seem like a smooth or approved of deal from my side of things.
From what I heard, we only have about 100 people detained. So the idea that thousands of people are being inconvenienced is an exaggeration by the liberal propagandists. And frankly, it would suit me fine if it was thousands more than that. The thing we have to understand is that we have allies in the Muslim world. There are lots of Muslims that live here. They're very nice people. But Islam is not a religion in the normal sense. It's partly a religion, but it's also partly an ideology that was set up by the followers of Muhammad in order to conquer the ancient world and every other world that came after, in order to conquer our world.
Well, what's the difference between that and Christianity that has its own kind of...
massive. Christianity...
We did the Crusades. And
the Crusades were a defensive war.
Yeah, but we went into countries and tried to take them.
The Crusades were a defensive war. The Jerusalem and the whole Middle East was Christian and Jewish. It was invaded by people from the Arabian Peninsula. And what happened was the Crusaders were sent to try to save those people. The Christianity and Judaism came hundreds and in the case of Judaism, thousands of years before the Muslim religion. And the Muslim religion began, it's the only religion that began by attacking all of its neighbors. There were a little background history. Muhammad, there are two parts of the Quran, the Meccan and the Medinan. The Meccan is where Muhammad started the Muslim religion by trying to persuade people and, sort of gentle proselytizing. And he got 150 followers. Then he got kicked out of Mecca and had to go to Medina, where he started his business of raiding caravans and telling his followers that they could rape and enslave anybody that didn't go along with him being a prophet and his new religion.
Hold on, because...
So just let me finish. So the Muslim religion began with the sword. It began with persuasion, and then it switched over to the sword. And because the Meccan portion, or the Medinan portion, is the later portion, in the Muslim religion, the later portions of the Quran are to be obeyed in favor of, if there's a conflict, in favor of the earlier portions. So the later it comes in the Quran, the more it has to be taken seriously, taken as the final arbiter if there's a decision to be made. And it began, by the way, not like Christianity or Judaism. Judaism began fighting the Amalekites, the Hittites, the Jebusites. the Muslim religion began fighting you and me. The Muslim religion began fighting Christians and Jews. And pretty much, I think as high as 60% of the Quran deals with fighting us.
Well, I don't know any of this stuff. I haven't
Okay.
studied the Quran. I haven't studied the Bible particularly.
Right.
But there are 1.25 billion or 1.3 billion Muslims across the world.
Right.
And
Maybe more, but go ahead.
Hold that thought, let me get set.
Okay.
1 second.
all right, most Muslims don't want to wage war against the rest of the world. I mean, most Muslims just want to do what everybody wants.
Well,
get married, have kids, or at least get laid, or eat nice food, have good lives. It's a small minority of the of 1.3 billion people who want to wage jihad.
They've done studies, and it turns out that there are millions and millions and millions. For example, 10%. Let's say 10% of the Muslims want to wage jihad.
That seems super
That's
high.
But it's not. All studies show, and whenever they've done any studies,
Who's
far
doing
more
these
than that.
studies?
There are reputable companies that go to Arab countries, Muslim countries, and ask them, "What do you think?" And
Yeah, but all right,
and hundreds of millions of Muslims would like to make the whole world Muslim by
would like
force if
to,
necessary.
but I mean, a
By
lot of
force if
Christians. Yeah,
necessary.
but a lot of Christians want to make the whole world Christian. There's only 30,000. 30,000 people in ISIS.
Yeah, but
Those are the biggest assholes among a bunch of assholes. Those are the ones who've pulled up stakes and gone to sacrifice their lives to wage jihad and build a caliphate.
Okay.
But that's 30,000 out of 1.3 billion.
Yeah, but 80% of Muslims in Pakistan, for example, some huge number.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
80%.
Okay, something like 80% of Muslims in Pakistan think you should be killed for apostasy if you leave the Muslim religion. There are huge. The majority of most Muslim countries think you should be killed if you insult the Prophet. They've done studies and found that many Muslims living in Europe believe that they should have the right to rape a woman if she's not veiled. It's the highest rate of child brides in the world are in Muslim countries because the Prophet married a 9-year-old. The Prophet married a 9-year-old. Her name was Aisha. She was a Christian slave. So you have a prophet that raped a child. And in order to act like the prophet, millions of Muslims believe it should be okay to have sex with a child.
Are you saying that currently, there's no way millions of Muslims are currently...
Yep. Oh, yes. Well, look, in Afghanistan, there are child brides everywhere. And we're talking about 6, 7, 8. Muhammad actually married Aisha when she was 6. He held off until she was 9 to consummate the marriage.
Well, Afghanistan's a freaking mess.
Well, I mean,
All right, but it's like...
Pakistan, but here's the problem. It is a religion, if you can call it that. I think it's more of an ideology, where the more you practice it, the more you want to behave like the prophet.
Well, hold on, because...
And that's how the prophet behaved.
Well, yeah, but there are 3 different flavors of Judaism, and probably really more like...
There are no flavors of Judaism that tell you to lop off the heads of 800 prisoners of war.
That's true.
Which is what Muhammad did after a battle. And by the way, they were Jewish, and I'm still a little resentful, if you don't mind. So you have the head of the religion having sex with a 9-year-old. You have him killing 800 prisoners of war.
Wait, hold on. What would a well-informed liberal say to counter that? Because
liberals aren't well informed about this. That's why they think it's fine.
But you must have had
To let
discussions.
thousands
hold on,
of
hold
Muslims
on.
in.
What does a well-informed when you say that to somebody who knows what they're talking about, who's a liberal? You say to liberal Joe, Muhammad was banging a 9-year-old. What does liberal Joe, who actually knows what he's talking about, say back to that?
Okay. The only argument I've ever heard, now I have to help your argument.
Thank
but
you,
the
you
only,
do. Okay.
The only argument I've ever heard was I've heard a Muslim say, oh, well, everybody did that back then. But there's no evidence for that. And when you say, well, there's no evidence for that, most people think that people started to have sex after the child had experienced puberty. The Muslims that I've heard say, well, just live with it. That was the custom. And just accept it. But I'm sorry, I don't accept it. I think if your religion has your prophet having sex with a child, killing people if they leave the religion.
Well, hold on. The Mormons had some unsavory practices.
They had polygamy, but polygamy is normal for most societies.
Who's going around saying
it was
bang?
it was voluntary.
Who's going around saying bang 9-year-olds right now?
All right. Oh, I get it. Let me explain. The average Muslim wants to be like Muhammad. You see,
the average Muslim doesn't. Out of
no.
1.3
If he's religious, he does. The religion says that Muhammad was the perfect man. So in order to be a good person, you have to do what Muhammad did. And Muhammad had sex with a 9-year-old. That's why people have sex with 9-year-olds so often in the Muslim world.
I have a hard time believing that is the deal for. It can't be the deal across 1.3 billion
that's why
people.
ISIS did that. They were practicing their religion correctly.
No, but they are the biggest assholes in Muslimdom.